Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name remains Comfort Oladayo Adegbero and if you're a new subscriber, thank you for stopping by. If you're an old subscriber, thank you for coming back. So today we won't be wasting much time. I'll just be walking you through about some tips that would be helpful in your grad school application. So precisely 2 weeks ago, I was invited to talk in a webinar, and I felt like, well, this content and this talk will be something good enough to share with my audience also. So I'll just be doing a quick summary of the things I discussed during this webinar. So let's get right into it. So when you're talking about your grad school application, there is something I call the first stage of preparation, which is quite important. And so, in this first stage of preparation, what exactly are you meant to look out for? First of all, I would advise people who ask me, "Oh, I'm interested in scholarships, interested in applying for graduate school applications. I want to get funding, blah blah blah." The first thing is you have to know your path. You have to know, in knowing your path, you need to know what course you are interested in. For example, when I was trying to apply for grad school application. Then I studied crop science back in my undergraduate. So I knew from research that courses like food security, sustainable agriculture were things that kind of interest me. So, and even biotechnology to relating to, agriculture, maybe like plant biotech, agricultural biotech in general. So you having to do research is quite important to know your course and what you're interested in. And when you do research, you're able to explore more options as it relates to your field. When you go through the website of certain universities, you kind of know similar courses that you might have ordinarily not thought about. So you have to explore, you have to make your research and choose the course you are interested in. Next is some people might want to decide that, oh, it's only the US I want to go to, because I know of colleagues when I was trying to apply also, there was a particular lady I know that she was always applying to only schools in US. So maybe US and Canada, that's North America in general. But I didn't really consider applying to the US when I was applying. I was only looking mostly for like scholarships, and I really wasn't really particular in the country. I knew I sent code emails to, I think it's going Canada then, but mostly my applications were to the UK and I think some places in Europe really. So you have to decide if that's what you want. Do you want just a specific country or you're open to all options? The next thing is to determine the funding. Are you the kind of person that you are willing to sponsor yourself, but maybe you might just be looking for a little bit of partial funding to support yourself? Are you looking out for just external scholarships, or do you want something that is fully funded? Now, if you are willing to sponsor yourself, you might just go ahead to do that. But if you know that you cannot, just like in my case, I knew that I wanted fully funded scholarship. I was looking out for scholarships that could as well cover my visa, my flights, and all of that. But it's fine even if you don't get scholarships that cover your visa and your flight, but at least you should be able to cover your tuition, your stipend if you're looking for a fully funded scholarship. So you need to know what options are available to you and what you can, accept. So that would direct your search. Next thing is cultivating the right mindset. I would say that in applying for scholarships and graduate school application generally, you need to be determined. You need to allow your enthusiasm to drive you forward, because there are so many times that you want to give up, but then you need to be passionate, because when you are passionate, it leads us to the next point, which is you will be able to take responsibility by yourself, because nobody is going to help you to take initiative. You have to be the one to take initiative to do your research yourself. You can only ask people questions, but it's only to a limited extent that people can actually help you. You have to be the one to set your courses yourself, know how you want to craft your statement of foundation. People can give you ideas, they can give you tips, but you are still left with taking that responsibility yourself. And when you take responsibility yourself, people who are willing to help you will even be more willing, in a sense that when they see that you have made your own notes, you have gone ahead to do your assignments, you know what you're doing, they are always willing to you give you more tips and answer your questions. But when you have not even done a question, you are just reaching out to someone like, oh, how can I get fully funded scholarship? There are so many resources out there. There's so many content that people are putting out there that would be very useful to you. So you have to also take the initiative, do your own work, and take responsibility by researching. Next is you have to stay persistent to your goals. And like I said, you'll be faced with challenges, you'll be faced with setback, but are you going to give up at the first trial? You might have to apply for as much as 20, 50 scholarships before you get that final yes. Now, positioning yourself opportunity is also very important. One of the areas where you can, be exposed to opportunities, social media, and even now, when I was applying, that's my friend I told you about sent me like links to some people I should follow on Twitter, and but that was mostly for people interested in USA and Canada. But even aside from that, you get to see other scholarship opportunities on some of these social media platforms, especially on LinkedIn too. When you go to LinkedIn, you follow certain people, you get to see some of these updates. People who are posting, oh, I'm looking for social graduate students, or maybe Commonwealth Share Scholarship is open now, Chevening Scholarship, this that. So, and also on LinkedIn is where you can get to, I know I'm still going to talk about that, about networking with people, but you get to meet people who probably have been awarded these scholarships, and they can also share you certain tips. Now, the school website, when you go to, maybe for example, you know that you're interested in the UK and you found a particular school that has your course of interest, go to their website and check the funding. Every school would have a web page. When they talk about their tuition, they can also talk about the funding opportunities. So they can tell you that, or maybe you have to apply for admission. If you are selected, automatically you are going to get funding from the department. This is kind of typical to some of the schools in the US. But then on the university website, you'll see fundings that are available from the school and also external funding. So you have to check the university's webpage regularly. And also YouTube channels, newsletters, websites. There are some websites, there are some newsletters that are dedicated to dishing out scholarship opportunities that are up to date. Even YouTube channels, just like you're watching this channel, there are also numerous channels that are available out there that provide scholarship updates. Do well to check them out. Now, I talked about building and maintaining network. It is very important because when you build and maintain network, you're exposed to people who have gone ahead of you and they can put you through, shed more light on you. Like for me, I never knew anything about scholarships before until I met someone like who I was just talking with online and all of that. We got into talk and it's like, oh, are you not interested in furthering your education? I was like, oh yes. And the person started putting me through and told me about scholarships and all of that. And through that, I was also able to, make attempts. So attending conferences, building network is also a very important aspect. For example, if you're in the US and maybe you had your masters, when you get to attend conferences and some of these academic events, you get to meet people and you tell them that, oh, I'm looking for a PhD position, I do this, blah 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 blah. That's one way you are exposed to opportunities. Now, connecting with faculty, you can also, this is also typical to US schools and maybe Canada. Sometimes you can, even for the UK too, I think, especially when you want to do a PhD, sometimes you have to reach out to this faculty, tell them you're interested. Some of these people have funding that are available and they can, willingly sponsor you. But you have to be sure that their research area is what interests you. And like I said, leveraging online platforms like LinkedIn and other social media platforms would give you the opportunity to connect with professionals and with alumni in the field and people who have been awarded some of these scholarships. Now, staying organized is another thing that you might want to consider when you are applying for scholarships. And like you can see on this table, it talks about the application, the deadline, the status. So you might want to also explore this kind of thing whereby you have a list of applications and scholarships that you intend applying for. Then you have the deadline, and it can keep you in check to know what you have started, what you need to get done. Now to the main work. One of the things you might want to do when you want to apply for graduate school application is strengthening your academic profile. I know people talk about that, oh, it's not important to have a first class. You can have a first class, but doesn't mean you have a first class life. Yeah, things like that happen, but I would say when you have the opportunity to, and by all means, why not get that good grade, even if you will end up not using the certificate. If it is good, why not aim for what is good? If it is the best, why not aim for what is the best? So strong GPA matter, even if they're not going to use a GPA in the first instance. If you find two people who have similar work experience and maybe leadership quality and they're on the same level, who knows, they might want to use your CGPA and your academic strength to judge and select whoever they want to select at that point. And even some scholarships, Commonwealth scholarships, and some they will specifically tell you that, oh, first class and second class upper are the grades that they are looking out for. So if you're an undergraduate at this time and you still have your chance. Why not aim for strong GPA? And because it's a very key factor in your application's competitiveness. Now you also have to take relevant coursework that are in line with your field of study. And one thing also that I would advise is continuous learning. You can go to Coursera to take certificates, and on Coursera, there are some financial aids that you can apply for. Platforms like EDX to also FAO if you are related to like agriculture and all of that. So just explore, take courses, keep strengthen your academic profile and keep adding to your knowledge in the particular field you're interested in, because all of this will definitely strengthen your application. Now, gaining relevant research experience is also very important. I know I also learned this quite late. So when I was in the UK, I was talking with a colleague of mine, maybe when I wanted to apply for a PhD and all of that, I was like, oh, I'm not sure I have enough work experience. I was like, you do. Your undergraduate research is a very tangible work experience. So if you have not, this is one thing you can include in your CV when you're talking about your research and your work experience, your undergraduate research. When you have engaged in research projects during your undergraduate, it's also a plus for you. And I would say that in this regards, when you are still an undergraduate student, if you have the opportunity to relate with your professors, relate with senior colleagues, and collaborate with them. I didn't know this, so if I knew, even if it's not for the sake of maybe having your name added to the publications or whatever, but it's adding to your work experience. If you have a senior colleague who is working on their project, why not just go ahead and say, oh, I'm willing to help you, let me know what you're doing in your research. That way you're adding to your research experience. Also, you can go for summer internships and also volunteer. When I was done with my undergraduate program, for example, I decided to volunteer in the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, which is IIT. Even if it was just for 3 months, that is one thing I would never remove from my CV because that felt like one of the would I say very tangible industrial experience I kind of had. And also I was exposed to some volunteering activities. I volunteered in my school farm at some point. So even if you don't have to get paid, right, if you can sponsor yourself, why not just go ahead and have that work experience attached. Additionally, you might want to also engage in certain projects and publications. If you have a group of friends that are willing to publish papers, even if it's just a short review paper, you can also explore that option to strengthen your application, because that way people know that, oh yes, you are still very much active in this area of research. You are very much active in your field of study. Now, crafting your application document, one of the things you require is your CV, and I'll be showing you a template of this in the next slide. And you also need a compelling statement of motivation. You need to tell them what your goals are, how your programs align with them. And one thing I would also say is using the prompts given. So many times that you want to apply for applications, your statement of motivation, they will give you instructions on what you are meant to write. I would say it is to your advantage if you follow those instructions and follow those statements that they have given you as prompts. And lastly, in your application, I know you also need your transcript, you need your certificates, you need your passport and all of that, but then it's also important for references. So at this point, if you are still an undergraduate or wherever you are, build connections and relate well with your lecturers, because you will still need them for your references. And when you are submitting your references, you need to submit people who know you well and who are willing to write well about you. Now, this is an example of the CV. As you can see here, you can just go through it. In this video, you have to write your profile, your education, your teaching experience, depending, and your professional history. So sometimes you can replace teaching experience with your research experience if you are applying for maybe like a graduate research assistantship position. And also you might want to include all of the awards you have, your skills, and if you belong to like some clubs or maybe associations relating to your field of research, why not include that. Now to the statement of motivation. So I'm just going to give you a brief about how you can write a statement of motivation, and this is like a template that I also submitted recently for a PhD position. And also you have to first state the problem statement, and why you are interested in this particular field of study, and why do you think that field of study is very, very much important. What problem do you think this field of study can solve? So now I talked about the desire of every farmer to cut production costs, the desire to increase crop yield and all of that. And I also talked about the problem of the environment, how climate change, is limiting farmers from probably achieving this goal. So now, I talked about food security. I talked about how my academic journey so far in the field of crop and soil science, especially crop physiology, has helped me to build a strong foundation. However, I feel like I'm still lacking and I still need certain relevant skills to solve this above problem. That's why pursuing a PhD is very much important. For the next paragraph, you have to talk about why you are qualified, what are your achievements, what skills, experiences, and educational qualifications that you have. You have to move from the known more or less to the unknown, if that's like the right. So what you have to what you do not have, sort of. So I talked about how I've been a student in University of Padova, the skills I've learned in my dual degree exchange program. You have to be specific. The way I mentioned gas exchange, fluorescent measurements, cotton leaf pigment data, in line with your home field, just include all of those things. So next, what are your plans for the program and why should you be selected? Why do you think you are qualified? Why should they select you? Or if you're talking about a PhD, for example, you might want to go ahead and talk about the things you might have written in your proposal. And for me, in addition to that, I kind of talked about how I'm interested in the graduate certificates in agricultural data science program, which is specific to this particular school I'm applying to. So you doing your research about your school is also very important. Why have you chosen that school? Why that particular program? So you have to include all of this. And lastly, you have to also show a strong interest in university and a very good conclusion that would, make them to select you. And also, I had done my master's, like my second year of master's in this institution, so I was also interested in doing a PhD there. And I was like, oh yeah, the fact that I have an experience here being a master's student, I can boast of the fact that yes, the research facilities are definitely good enough, and I am sure that it's the right environment for me to pursue my research goals, and just look for a way to show them that you are interested. And I also say that me wanting to pursue this PhD is a deliberate step which I know is in the right direction. And now, additional things that you might want to consider when crafting your statement of motivation is you might also want to include your plans after your program. For example, oh, are you interested in doing a postdoc after your PhD? Are you interested in doing a PhD after your master's? Or do you want to go into the industry? Do you want to work in the academia? Like, what exactly do you want to do? What are your plans after 5 years? Do you want to work in a particular institution? Do you want to go into policy making for your field of study? And another thing is you might also be interested in writing code emails, right, to professors. So in this case, you want to, it might not be as detailed as writing a statement of motivation per se, but you want to talk about your research interests and why the professor should meet you. And it's kind of similar to a statement of motivation, but it might just be a bit different. You might want to check online for resource to help you to write the code emails. And for certain external scholarships, you might also want to consider following the prompts that have been given to you. For example, Commonwealth Shared Scholarship has certain essays that you have to write, and for each of these essays they will give you prompts: leadership essays, development impact essays. They'll give you prompts which you just have to follow. And that was what I just said. Now always check the essay prompts. And now I would also want to tell you that while you are applying, you have to embrace the journey. You have to stay positive and don't be pessimistic, rather be optimistic. Be patient, because it takes time. These things take time, rather. And celebrate the small wins. Even if you get caught up to an interview stage, you're unable to meet up for the final stage, still be thankful. Acknowledge every step forward, from completing an application to receiving an interview and to getting your final yes. So I wish you guys the very best. Have faith in yourself, have faith in God also. And I'm going to drop a link in the description box to show you where you can get examples of SOPs, reference letter templates, CVs, and all of that. And this is just like references I know from which I was able to create this video. And till we meet, Do stay comforted. Ciao.